and your empty eyes. You're full of Botox to mask your disguise. You say the things no one wants to hear while the sucker next to you is buying you a bear.
We're going to have a little Q&A. And at the risk of sounding redundant, please make your answers genuine.
Yeah, talking is not just about getting out what you have to say or just talking, but it's also being prepared to listen to what the other person has to say.
Like a Greek philosopher once said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak.
That was unfathomably deep.
Talk to me.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually a very good question.
You stay classy, web surfers.
And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Guess what? It is Let's Talk with my very special guest co-host, Andi Norwich, and our special guest, Tracy Hickman. Hello, Andi. Are you still there?
I am here. Thank you.
And Tracy, are you still here?
I am. Andi, it's nice to hear your voice. How are you this evening?
I'm actually doing awesome. Thank you, Tracy. Had a wonderful day at my day job, and I can't think of a better way to finish out my night.
Well, I guess I'm just chopped liver then, right?
Well, it is your show, so.
I do have a little bit of bad news. Tracy has about a half hour or so he could spend with us because he had another commitment that's popped up.
Well, it's not another commitment popped up. I'm actually doing a Google Hangout this evening.
Okay.
As part of our Sojourner Tales Kickstarter project. And the Hangout this evening is with Richard Garriott. Most gamers know him as Lord British from his computer games. And we have him and a lot of the development staff for the Shroud of the Avatar game that are going to be joining us on our Hangout this evening. But it turned out that I'm actually in charge of the Hangout, which means that I have to set it all up and make sure everything is running. I'm sure that Michael understands how all of that works.
I do. I most definitely do.
Yes, and the inconvenience when people don't show up on time.
And you know what? I've already told you, you're forgiven, Tracy. You can stop asking for forgiveness. I've forgiven you a long time ago. I forgave you before you ever asked.
No, forgiveness is always easier than permission. We know that.
Yes. So let's get to the meat of it, and because it is my show, I get to ask the first question. Why in the world did you kill Sturm?
Why did I kill Sturm?
Yes.
I've been watching a lot of Perry Mason lately, and this sounds suspiciously like a Perry Mason sort of a question. I'm going to sit up on the stand there, and Hamilton Berger's going to sit down there, and he's going to object, and you're going to say, you're going to ask if it please the court, and then the guy that's up there in the stand, he's going to say, okay, fine, go ahead. You're Perry Mason. I'm going to ignore Berger. You go ahead and ask your question. So you're going to ask me, why did I kill Sturm? I should break down on the stand at this point, right?
Well, I would hope so, because I'll be honest with you, Sturm was my favorite character.
Well, Sturm was my favorite character as well. There's an old axiom actually in writing that says all of our darlings must die, which is to say that those people that we feel the closest to very often are those who sacrifice the most. Sturm's death actually came about because of a legend that I had read. I believe it was a Norse legend of a king who was standing on the battlements defending his city. And I will admit up front that this is a very misogynistic tale. Okay, I'll just own up to it right up front. But while he was standing on the battlements, he saw from the enemy below. In his mind, he had this vision, and in this vision, he could see the arrow of his death coming towards him. Mm-hmm. And in the moment he saw this arrow coming towards him, he had this whole vision open up to him, where he saw himself die on the battlements in defense of his fortified city. and that the people, seeing his death, would rise up to the occasion, would defend the city successfully, and forever afterwards would sing songs of his great sacrifice on their behalf, and forever afterwards. And just as he had this entire vision, his wife stepped in front of him, took the arrow, and died, and robbed him of this great, wonderful death that he was really ticked off at his wife, apparently, for dying instead of him. So, yeah, I read this, but I was struck, and I thought, what a horrible story. But at the same time, I thought, what an interesting thing that one's sacrifice should have such an effect on other people as to allow them to rise up and to do the right thing. And so that became the essence of Sturm's death. You know, Sturm is a fascinating character for me, from the standpoint that he was not really a knight in terms of the order of the knighthood, in terms of their rules and their regulations and their procedures.
The oath and the measure.
The oath and the measure. He subscribed to it in his heart, but he had never gone through the process of becoming an actual knight. And yet, he was far more a knight in his heart than any of the knights who were professing to be knights at the time. And so his sacrifice on the wall is, in fact, the sacrifice that rallies the knights to the defense of the wall, and ultimately leads to the defeat of the dragon armies that are laying siege to the High Clerist's tower. Sturm is also an interesting character in that he is only present through, he's only alive really through the first book and half of the second book.
Right.
And yet his sacrifice resonates so strongly throughout the entire body of work that he always seems to be there in some form. So even though he is gone, he has attained an immortality within the story that none of the other characters seem to have attained. And I think that's actually a really great tribute to his character. I also have another story that I tell from time to time when I'm moved to do so about Sturm. And I don't know if you want to get too deeply into that this evening, but...
hey, it's your world. We just live in it. I bet you've heard that before.
Well, it's an interesting thing that you say that, because it's not just my world. It's everyone's world who has read the books, because we write these words and we don't know what effect they're going to have on people, how they're going to be interpreted into meaning by people. The wonderful thing about the written word is that it is a collaborative creation, and it's a collaboration between the author and the reader. The author puts the words on the page, but all of the meaning and the substance and the experience, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the performance of the book, all takes place in that white space between the words, and that's all provided by the reader. John Steinbeck said at one point that there are as many books as there are readers. And I believe that that's true, because, as he said, each one brings to the book their own prejudice, their own dreams, their own ideals. And so everyone who reads a book has read a unique thing and has had a unique experience. And it's one of the great joys as an author for me to be able to meet readers and discover for myself anew what interpretation they've given to my words, what new creation each of them have made in interpreting those words. Now I have, I was at I don't always tell the story, but I'll tell it this evening. I was, we wrote these books decades ago, really. And other books have come, and other stories have come since then, and come and gone, and we've written them. And we go to book signings from time to time, and each time we meet someone new, and each time we sign their book, and each each time is a very personal experience for people, and people are very smart. They realize that they've only got a minute, maybe a minute and a half, to express all of the feelings and emotions and experience that they've had with your work. And so they compress these very personal experiences. And when you have, 200 or 300 people come and one after another give you a deeply personal experience, you sometimes just get into a rhythm at the book signing, where you take the book, smile, acknowledge the people, ask their name, personalize the book for them. I always personalize the book if they want it, and ask them, a question and connect with them personally. Hand them their book, reach for the next book, and do it again. We were on a book tour in Washington State, and in fact, we were doing a book signing at Fort Lewis, and at the PX at Fort Lewis. And the man who was in charge of the PX, Martin Weiss and I were there doing the book signing, and took us aside, and he said, "No, this is not your typical book signing. A lot of the men who are here in line are about to be deployed, and they don't know if they're coming back. A lot of the women who are here with their children, their husbands are on deployment. They've come here to get a book for their husbands, and they don't know if they are coming back." So he asked us to have, to keep that in mind as we spoke to them and did our book signing. So we were taking the book, take the book, smile, ask their name, personalize the book, hand the book back, take the next book. And I reached across the table, and I took this book. It was one of those collector's editions, the Chronicles compilations, the big fat brick of a book. And it was a paperback version, and the cover was worn completely, and it was obvious the spine was broken terribly, and the book was broken terribly, and the pages were all curled and wrinkled. And I looked across the table, and there was a young man who was sitting in a wheelchair. And he said to me, this book's jumped with me from 30,000 feet. This book's been under oceans with me. I take it with me everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I opened the book, and I asked his name, signed the book for him. And then he said to me, I was in Afghanistan, and I was on point, and I got shot. He said, and as I fell, I was shot in the base of the back, bottom of the back. And as I fell, I could see the enemy setting up a mortar emplacement on the other side of the valley. And I knew my entire squad was behind me. He said, when I went down, the thought that came into my mind was, what would Sturm do?
Oh, wow.
And this young warrior with a shattered back, I mean, it had broken his spine. The bullet had broken his spine. Stood up and warned the rest of his squad. And he said that, he told me later, he said as he got up, he said, I hope this works out better for me than it did for him. but he stood up with that broken back and with that shattered spine. He warned his squad, and he said, this book saved 12 men's lives that day.
Oh, wow.
And he reached across the table, and he pushed toward Margaret and I his Purple Heart and his Bronze Star.
Wow.
You have touched me on a real base level there. I thank you for sharing that.
Well, you see, and this is why Sturm is so dear to me, because Sturm has inspired people, and Sturm has inspired people to do great things. It's not that I've done anything particularly great. I wrote a story about a warrior on on the top of a wall. But it has been interpreted by people. It was interpreted by this young man in this one moment into the supreme act. And so I don't feel badly about what happened to Sturm, because Sturm's death not only resonated with the mice in the book, but it resonates with people, and it has inspired people to do great and amazing things.
So the Forest Master knew exactly what she was talking about.
Yes, I believe so.
See, I just had to throw that out there. It was a touchy
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get too serious with you on this, but it was an important story to me. I thought I'd share it with you.
And I'm very, very thankful that you did that with us. Okay, I feel privileged that you trusted us and our audience here to share that. I'm a firm believer. Whenever I do an interview, I'm a firm believer. Whatever needs to be talked about will be talked about. Okay.
Yes.
So there's no reason to ever say sorry, because I am the type of person I will forgive you before you ever ask.
Oh, thank you.
But Andi has a question, don't you, Andi?
Well, yes, Sturm is a beautiful character, and we all really do have a soft spot for him. What about the character Taz? I mean, where did his character come from?
Well, Taz Milhouse's a fascinating character, too. Taz Milhouse actually came from the input of a number of people, ultimately. It started, I think, with my mother, with Harold Johnson, who came up with the idea as we were trying to put together Dragonlance and to decide on what kinds of player characters we would have. I mean, after all, Dragonlance originally was supposed to be exclusively an AD&D game and a set of modules for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. The idea that it would ever be a book or a set of novels was really just kind of a pipe dream. It was way down the list. It was a tertiary product down there with miniatures for Dragonlance and beach towels, somewhere in there were novels under consideration. And so, we went into these meetings trying to create, a party of characters. That's one of the reasons why the first Dragonlance book is for me kind of funny, because we have so many characters, as though we were creating a party of adventurers for a game, that it almost looks like a tour group moving around through the book. Here's the flag, and we're all going to march over here and do something, and then let's march over here and do something else. But we were trying to, deal with things like halflings and hobbits and thieves and different kinds of classes of things. Obviously didn't want to do hobbits because that would get you in all kinds of trademark problems, and you obviously don't want to do halflings for the same reason. But we did want something like that, and so I was intrigued by the German Kinder idea, but it didn't render very well in English because it always looked like kinder. And so we changed the I to the E, and it became Kinder, which I felt worked really quite well. Harold wanted to make sure that they were essentially like hobbits with shoes, which was just the start of where we were going, But eventually, this also involved an idea of mine. I objected to the idea of a thief class. I knew that in the game you needed certain capabilities and abilities that the thief character always had to have. But the idea of actively wanting to be somebody who stole stuff, I found rather morally, morally incorrect and an affront to my morals. So I do know that there are people, like neighbors that one has, and they're usually not your favorite neighbor, who will come over and borrow something from you. And when they borrow something from you, the ownership becomes kind of nebulous, and then eventually they forget where they got it from, and so I thought, well, what if this race of characters, they weren't thieves so much as they just didn't really understand the concept of property. That everything was out there to be used, and they didn't really understand the idea that anyone could actually own something or buy something and therefore was exclusive to them. If you needed something, you should probably just use it. And And so that's kind of where the Kinder originally, the basic idea for the Kinder came from. Life was breathed into this idea, however, by Roger Moore, who was the editor of Dragon magazine at the time, and who wrote a short story about Kinders for the magazine, which was fabulous and really solidified the idea of who Tasselhoff was and who the Kinder were after that. And ever since then, it's just been, the Kinders are one of our favorite characters.
I know that we're running a little bit low on time here. I need to have you back, Tracy. I know this makes the second time and maybe a third later on down the line, but there's so many questions that are coming through, and you're just an awesome guest.
Well, I really love doing this. I love hanging with you people. I love talking about what's going on. Especially, I love talking about story and what story means to us. I went to a Storytellers Festival, which was a lot of fun, by the way. And if it's one year area, I definitely encourage you to go and visit one of those. But one of the storytellers, in her telling of a tale, said something that stuck with me ever since. She said, now that she said, how can we be strangers now that you know my story? And I realized that that's true, and and in fact, it's it's profound. If we know someone's story, if we hear someone's story and know someone's story, we can no longer be a stranger. We are friends.
Right.
And so I think that's why one of the reasons I love sharing story. It's one of the reasons we're so involved with this Kickstarter right now, because we want to convey story to people. This game that we produced has engendered such a fabulous response from people who not only want to play the game, but who very much want to write for the game. We had one of the people who's pledged to our Kickstarter campaign wrote to us today that he's been talking about this game with his children and with his grandchildren, and all of them are excited about the idea of coming together and writing their own story for the game. And how excited he was to involve all of his kids in creating stories to play with this game. And I think, that is the essence of story right there. Because, how can we be strangers if now that you know my story?
It's said to here, I'm here watching the chat room, and people are screaming about starting a top knot trend.
I love this idea. I love that top knot trend. I think that'd be great.
And like I said, I know that you have another engagement, but if you could do me a favor, tomorrow I actually turned 49.
Oh, happy birthday in advance.
That's what I was looking for. I wanted to tell people that Tracy Hickman actually wished me happy birthday.
I do. I absolutely wish you the happiest of birthdays, and may you always publish peace in everything you do and say.
I will, I will try to take Sturm's lead on that and attempt to do that even more than what I actually am doing. And I hope, and I know the last time I asked you, and I'll ask you again one day in the future, I hope you come back and spend some time with us again, because you are an excellent guest.
Well, and it goes so far beyond the Dragonlance series as well. You have so much more that people may not know about that I wanted to spotlight for you as well. The sci-fi, the, comic related with Bruce Wayne. I mean, there's so much more.
I know, and we need to talk about all of these things. So I promise I will come back. I promise life is going to get far less crazy. Our Kickstarter campaign, it ends on Wednesday. And once that, I had no idea how time-consuming, and overwhelming the campaign was going to be. As soon as I get past that, though, hopefully my life will settle down and we'll be able to spend some quality time here. I'd love to do that.
Okay, I will look forward to it. And, of course, I have your information because you are such a personal friend of mine.
Absolutely. Who else is going to wish you a happy birthday?
Yes, because nobody else really seems to care.
Oh, ha-ha.
Thank you, Tracy, so much. And, of course, Andi, I want to wish you a safe trip to Scotland.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, we have 10 more days.
Yes, please have me back, because I want to hear all about the trip to Scotland.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, my friends, this is Let's Talk for Monday, October 7th, 2013. My very special guest has been Tracy Hickman, and the ever-beautiful Andi Norwich has been my special guest. She's the one that giggles like a little schoolgirl. I had to throw that out there at least once. And until next week, ladies and gentlemen, I want to wish you all many pleasant nightmares, and we'll see you on the other side. Take care, and have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.